Former Secretary of the Edo State Council of Nigerian Union of Journalists, Mr. Titus Akhigbe, has expressed his grief over the tragic death of his wife, Mrs. Irene Akhigbe, after 3 hospitals reportedly denied her medical attention. Recounting the ordeal during a condolence visit by the leadership and members of the Correspondence Chapel in Benin City, Akhigbe described his wife's passing as shocking and unexpected, stating that timely medical intervention could have saved her life. He narrated, "My wife attended a crossover service on December 31st, 2023 and returned home with the children. She prepared breakfast and later went to visit a neighbor on January 1st. Hours later, she called my son saying she felt faint on her way back home. We rushed to her location and took her to 3 different hospitals before she was finally admitted to the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Despite all efforts, she passed away at 12:15 a.m. on January 2nd, 2025. Chairman of the Correspondence Chapel, Mr. Yakubu, who led the condolence delegation, described the loss as profoundly painful. She sympathized with the family, urging them to find solace in God's comfort. The members of the chapel offered prayers for the repose of Mrs. Irene Akhigbe's soul and pledged continued support to Mr. Akhigbe and his family during this difficult time. Lots of times, over and over again, we've heard stories of medical neglect, and one of the oaths this medical practitioners take is the value for human lives. What are your thoughts on this story?
As I said, I don't know what it is, but there were a lot of lives that could have been saved if our medical practitioners springed into actions when these people were brought in. A lot. Right. Most of these issues, I have like somebody who was close to me who lost their life because it was just a very minor thing. Very, very minor, that if a doctor had seen her when she needed the attention, I think that she would have survived. We can't know for sure, but it's best that, you know, something is done, that nothing is done. And rejecting a patient for whatever reason, I think it's one of the reasons that is constantly happening is because our medical system, they're not fully equipped for a lot of situations. It's like bringing somebody that needs a heart, you know, that has a heart condition into a hospital that's not equipped to take care of the heart. Right. And I don't think there's any reason why hospitals should not be fully equipped. And in Nigeria here, most of our hospitals are really lacking. A lot of hospitals are lacking a lot of equipment. Right. So I think that's one of the reasons. I don't know why she was rejected, but I think that's usually the major reason when you ask these questions to these hospitals. Oh, she had a liver issue. We don't have anything for that here. She had a heart problem. She had a brain issue. We referred her to this place. And you've forgotten that before somebody is dying, before she gets to that place, she might not make it. She made it here. There should be measures in place to keep that person alive for the later transport, since we don't have these equipped hospitals. And so I think that Nigeria medical system as a whole needs to do something about the equipment in the hospitals.
Now, I want to get your thoughts on a particular part. When I talk about, you know, in this climb of discourse about
medicine and medical practitioners and rejecting of people, what are your thoughts as regards, you know, in well-civilized countries, there are no private hospitals. Most hospitals are usually government-owned, most of the ones that people readily go to. Do you think that this whole thing we have in Nigeria, where a doctor has kind of one leg in government, one leg at their private establishment, do you think that plays a role in that if the government was able to equip their hospitals, the government hospitals, and everybody is functioning there fully, do you think this will reduce, or that will reduce such cases similar to this?
I do think so. I do think so, because there's like a ton of private hospitals and their CEOs or the owners are consultants in these government hospitals. So most of the time that they're needed in the government sector where they are consultants, they're working in their private hospitals.
Right.
So I do think that if the government can equip their government hospitals, I think they'll do better. And another thing I think is affecting our government system is salaries. These people don't feel like they're paid enough for the stress that they go through. I've been to hospitals, and even when I'm in really dire situations and I'm telling a nurse, please ma, can you just take a look at me? I'm not paid enough for this thing that you're doing.
That's
you
what
don't
they
pay me
say.
enough for this thing that you're doing. Yeah. They've said worse now. Nurses have said worse. So I do think that if the government can, equip the hospitals, the government hospitals and enough, I think that it would really help.
Now, when they say they are not paid enough, do you think it's as regards to not being paid enough for the amount of service they give, or not being paid enough because of their status of profession? Now, when you go into a workplace, they tell you, we are going to pay you 400,000. You go into that workplace with the idea that, I'm using 400,000 for example. You go into that workplace with the idea that, oh, every month I'm going to do 400,000, right? Does it mean that when they start working in this system, because they were previously informed of the amount that was going to be given, when someone says, they don't pay me enough to attend to this, is that not your workload? What you chose to earn when you took that job?
It actually is, but most of the time, people don't have a choice. That's the way that I feel. People don't always have a choice. It's not news that in the country that we're currently in, I don't think anybody's getting paid what they deserve. I don't think so, personally. I don't think I'm earning what I deserve to earn. I don't think anybody's getting paid enough. But these nurses, if they tell you how much they're earning, you would be shocked, actually, because I've had a couple people tell me how much they earn, and I do think that it's really poor, but I'm not a nurse. And I think that before money, there should be sympathy, there should be, you this is what you chose to do.
Right.
So I feel like you need to be sympathetic enough to be a nurse, and some of them have lost that to, money. And another thing that our nurses do is constant comparison. I think everybody actually does it. They compare themselves with nurses outside the country.
Now, I was going to ask you that. That was you're headed towards the next question I was going to ask. Now, when people reject, someone goes to a clinic and the person is rejected, what are your thoughts as regards what brain drain in the medical field has cost Nigeria and Nigerians? Now, brain drain in the sense that most of these medical practitioners, everybody is going abroad, right? Over here, you hear them say the workload is too much. They never complain abroad.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Even if the workload is too much, they man it. They take it. They do it. Right. What are your thoughts as regards the effects or the hazards this brain drain has cost Nigeria and Nigerians? Because when you go to a clinic, there are just 2 people, they're handling 50 people. I don't think they would want to take in another extra person with a complex situation.
Yes.
What are your thoughts in that regard?
Well, it just all boils down to our country not doing enough for us. I don't think if a fully functional country, everybody will be trying to leave. Especially our medical practitioners. Everybody's really going. Even the ones who are currently working in hospitals, then if they see a window of opportunity, all the best doctors, the attentive ones, the sympathetic ones, they're no longer with us. So I think that's really affecting it's really affecting the healthcare system and Nigerians in general, because the country, the hospitals who do have some good quality doctors. There are some hospitals in Nigeria here that actually have white doctors. Yeah, not all of us can afford to go to those places. So
Right.
the hospitals we can afford, the doctors who we need are no longer with us. So I do think that it all just boils down to still what they earn, because they're not living for the weather.
Now, you previously mentioned what they earn, and you talked about their earnings just now. Most of the people that they actually earn of power, the people that make the, seemingly as we say, make the rules, the cabal and men of power and women of timber, as it said, most of them do not take their treatment in Nigeria. most of them would rather, they have a small leg pain, they're abroad. They have ear pain, they're abroad. Do you think that is the fundamental problem why the salaries of these medical practitioners haven't been looked into? Because when something is a pain point to you, now imagine a man of timber and caliber or a woman of strong power going to a clinic like this one and being turned back, right? Or one of the people in power or people that hold the structure of things, their family members, their children, their wives being turned back, right? Do you think that if they did not have access to take their families abroad, they would have looked for better ways to make the system work in a way that doctors are happier to stay, people get to earn better, since you've referred to most of the reasons why people want to leave is because they don't get paid well. Do you think if we cut out, let me say people in politics, people in power, people in government offices, their ability and access to go abroad, do you think if it was cut off, the system for medical practitioners and medicine and healthcare in Nigeria would be better?
Maybe. And I say maybe because when these people of timber and caliber do go to these hospitals, they're not treated the same way.
All right.
Yeah. So maybe when a politician walks into a hospital, you would be shocked at the kind of service that these people can provide. So maybe if they cut off the access to live in the country, maybe it would change, maybe it won't. I think it just all starts with all of us. Because if they do, it's nepotism. If they come to these hospitals in Nigeria, they're treated way better than regular, patients are. So maybe that would help, maybe it won't.
Are you on that? What you said now? Do you think we run a classic system? Classism is a factor.
I think it's everywhere in the world. That we can't get rid of it. Classism it's just here to stay. It's everywhere. It's not just Nigeria. It's in the entire world.
Right.
You can't treat anywhere in the world that Elon Musk goes to. You don't have a choice.
But I mean,
really.
the medical practitioners are under oath to save
lives.
There's no hierarchy in the difference. Life is life for everybody.
Yeah.
The day someone falls asleep and stops breathing is over. The same way the person begging on the road just now dies is the way a rich person dies. There's no classism in death. Right. Now, when the oath this way, do you think this oath holds any value in the grand scheme of things?
Just because people say that they would do things don't necessarily mean that they would do it. It's like giving you an example, like in a law court where if you want to be a witness, you get to take an oath and say that you can't lie. Doesn't mean that people are not coming on there to lie.
Right.
So they do take an oath, but it's not like I don't think they get punished when they default. I think I've never seen a doctor who got punished for rejecting a patient or anything. So their oath, I think, is just a moral upstanding. If you choose to uphold it, good for you. If
do you think there should be a punishment for that?
There's always supposed to be punishment for disobedience. There always should be like repercussions for your actions. There always should be something. Like if a hospital rejects a patient, what was the reason for this rejection? What happened? Things should be looked into, but sadly, they're not. I don't know if I can't constantly talk about the government having to do these things, but
of course there need to be. Ordinarily, when we talk about the government they have subsidiaries. We have the Ministry of Health. Under the government, the Ministry of Health has other departments and other subsidiaries underneath them. What then is the role of those people if they cannot checkmate things like this in the healthcare system?
Well, I do think that they should look into it. I don't see why anybody should go in for healthcare and be rejected for any reason. I don't care if you do not have the capacity to take care of this person. There are things that you can do.
Right.
Just like when somebody collapses, you're telling us about first aid and CPR and things to preserve that person for longer until the person gets the adequate care that they deserve. So to bring somebody into a hospital, I think you should do what you can first, just in case, and not just send somebody packing. Already, I'm sure I don't know how far these hospitals were, but you could have done something. You know, sending somebody away, even if the person ends up dying. But thank you. If I get to know that when I was here, they really did their best, even whilst they sent us to somewhere else, they tried to make sure that I don't think he would be complaining if you just showed a little compassion.
All right.